Imagine waking up one morning, stepping out of bed, and realizing that something has changed. Your legs feel heavier. Your hips ache. The floor feels just a little farther away than it used to. And deep inside, a quiet fear begins to whisper, "Am I starting to lose my mobility?" This is exactly what happened to Thomas, a 69-year-old retired mechanic from North Carolina. Thomas had always been strong, independent, the kind of man who never needed help carrying groceries, fixing things around the house, or exploring new places with his grandchildren. But slowly, almost invisibly, things started to change. At first, he brushed it off. Just getting older, he thought. Nothing I can't handle. But then one day, while reaching for a box in his garage, he stumbled. Not badly, not enough to get hurt, but enough to scare him, enough to make him realize something needed to change before it got worse. Thomas discovered that it wasn't just one big thing stealing his strength and mobility. It was a collection of small, everyday habits that seemed harmless, but were quietly chipping away at his independence. And the most dangerous part? He didn't even realize it was happening. Today, I'm going to show you the 7 silent habits that could be stealing your mobility and what you can do right now to protect your strength, your freedom, and your future. Some of these habits will surprise you. Some might already be part of your daily life without you even noticing. But the good news is this. The moment you become aware of them, you can start reversing the damage, step by powerful step. Stay with me. Because protecting your mobility isn't just about moving better, it's about living better, longer, and stronger. Thomas had always loved his quiet evenings. After a lifetime of hard work, he finally had the luxury of long afternoons reading, watching TV, or tinkering with puzzles at the kitchen table. It felt harmless, even well-earned. But what Thomas didn't realize was that sitting for long hours without moving was slowly, silently stealing his mobility. When we sit for extended periods, especially without taking breaks to move, several damaging things happen inside the body. First, muscles in the hips, legs, and core begin to weaken. Without regular activation, they shrink and stiffen, a process called muscular atrophy. Even a strong body can lose power quickly when it's left idle. Second, sitting shortens key muscles like the hip flexors. Over time, this makes standing tall harder, walking feel clumsier, and balance much more fragile. Third, circulation slows. Blood pools in the lower legs, making swelling, stiffness, and even blood clots more likely. Thomas thought resting his body was giving it a break. But in truth, his muscles and joints were becoming less resilient, less ready to react to sudden movements, less capable of supporting him in daily life. When his therapist explained the dangers, Thomas made a simple but powerful change. Every 30 minutes, he would stand up, even if just for a minute, to stretch, to walk across the room, to roll his shoulders and ankles. He started setting a small timer beside his favorite chair, a gentle reminder that movement was medicine. At first, it felt like an interruption. But soon, Thomas realized that these tiny moments of activity added up. His legs didn't feel as stiff after long evenings. He found it easier to stand from low chairs. He even noticed he could walk farther without feeling heavy or tired. Protecting your mobility doesn't require running marathons. Sometimes, it's about honoring your body enough to keep it alive with small movements, day after day. And once Thomas addressed his sitting habits, he discovered another hidden danger, a mistake so common that many people assume they're doing the right thing by skipping it. Thomas had always believed that staying active meant staying mobile. He thought his daily walks around the neighborhood were enough. After all, walking was movement, wasn't it? But when he began to struggle with tasks that once seemed easy, standing up from low chairs, climbing stairs, carrying groceries, he realized something important was missing: strength training. Most people over 60 focus on walking for exercise, and that's wonderful for heart health and endurance. But walking alone doesn't challenge the deep, powerful muscles needed to maintain stability, control, and independence. Muscle mass naturally declines with age, a process called sarcopenia. And without intentional resistance exercises to rebuild it, the loss accelerates quietly year after year. Thomas's therapist explained it simply. Strong muscles act like armor for your joints, protection for your bones, and engines that keep you moving. Without strength, even simple movements become risky. It wasn't about lifting heavy weights or spending hours in a gym. Thomas started small. At home, he practiced sit-to-stand movements from a sturdy chair, using just his legs, without pushing with his hands. He added gentle wall push-ups to strengthen his upper body and squats to keep his thighs powerful. Just a few minutes a day made a world of difference. At first, his legs trembled. His arms shook. But with patience, those trembles turned into control, then into confidence. Within a few weeks, Thomas noticed real changes. He could rise from the couch more easily. He could carry a full basket of laundry up the stairs without dreading it. He even walked with more bounce in his step, feeling younger than he had in years. Skipping strength training had quietly chipped away at his mobility. But rebuilding strength gave Thomas the power to reclaim it and the pride of knowing he could trust his body again. And as he grew stronger, Thomas uncovered another crucial piece of the puzzle, one that too many people overlook, but that is just as vital to staying upright and independent. As Thomas regained strength, he felt a surge of pride. Standing felt easier. Moving around the house was no longer a chore. But then, one rainy afternoon, as he stepped off a wet curb, he wobbled badly. He caught himself before falling, but the scare shook him deeply. That's when Thomas realized that strength alone wasn't enough. He had neglected another critical skill, balance training. Most people think balance is automatic, something you either have or you don't. But balance is a muscle too, and without regular training, it fades. After 60, the small stabilizing muscles in the ankles, knees, hips, and core weaken if they aren't challenged. The brain's quick reaction time slowed down, and the inner ear, the body's natural balance center, becomes less sensitive. All of this makes trips, slips, and dangerous falls more likely. Thomas's therapist taught him simple, daily balance drills. Standing on one foot for 10 to 20 seconds while holding a countertop. Walking heel to toe along a straight line on the floor. Practicing slow, controlled turns while standing still. At first, these exercises seemed almost too easy, but they revealed hidden weaknesses Thomas didn't know he had. His ankles wobbled. His legs tightened. His core muscles strained to stabilize him. But day by day, his body adapted. Each tiny tremble was his body learning, recalibrating, growing stronger. Within weeks, Thomas could step onto uneven ground without fear. He could turn quickly without feeling dizzy. His confidence and his safety soared. Neglecting balance training had silently robbed Thomas of security and control. But retraining it gave him back something even more powerful than movement. It gave him trust in himself. And just as Thomas thought he had uncovered the most important lessons, he discovered yet another silent enemy, one that creeps into our lives so quietly we often don't even notice it's there. As Thomas became stronger and steadier, he started feeling hopeful again. But there was still a quiet stiffness he couldn't shake, a tightness in his shoulders, a pressure in his lower back, and a slight forward hunch he had started to notice in the mirror. That's when his therapist pointed out another hidden danger: poor posture throughout the day. Posture isn't just about looking good. It's about how the body stacks and balances itself against gravity every single moment. Good posture protects the spine, distributes weight evenly across the joints, and keeps muscles active and engaged. Poor posture, on the other hand, quietly exhausts the body. It overstretches some muscles while shortening others. It forces joints to carry weight unevenly. It limits lung capacity, restricts circulation, and even affects balance, because a body hunched forward is a body constantly on the verge of falling. Thomas realized that decades of small habits had built up without him noticing. Slouching in chairs, leaning over his workbench, looking down at his phone for long periods, driving with his shoulders rounded forward. Each small habit, repeated daily, had slowly but surely pulled his body out of alignment. Correcting it didn't require perfection. It required awareness. Thomas started checking in with himself several times a day. Standing taller, rolling his shoulders back and down, gently engaging his core, and aligning his ears over his shoulders. He practiced sitting at the edge of chairs instead of slumping back. He adjusted his car seat and raised his reading materials closer to eye level. At first, it felt awkward, like he was exaggerating. But with practice, it became natural again. Within weeks, Thomas noticed he was breathing deeper. His back hurt less. His movements felt freer, lighter, more powerful. Posture wasn't just about standing tall. It was about reclaiming strength, dignity, and energy moment by moment, step by step. And as Thomas straightened his body, he realized there was still another invisible habit robbing him quietly, a habit most people dismiss as unimportant, but that has a massive impact over time. Thomas had made great progress. He was standing taller, walking steadier, and moving with more confidence than he had in years. But there was still something holding him back, a subtle stiffness that lived deep in his joints, especially in the morning and after long periods of sitting. His movements felt tight, like something was restricting him from reaching, bending, or stepping freely. That's when he uncovered another critical piece of the mobility puzzle: flexibility. For years, Thomas had ignored stretching. He thought it was optional, something only athletes or yoga enthusiasts needed to worry about. But as it turns out, flexibility is the foundation of smooth, pain-free movement. As we age, tendons and ligaments naturally become less elastic. Muscles shorten. Joint range of motion decreases. Without regular stretching, even simple tasks like tying shoes, stepping into a car, or reaching for something on a shelf can become uncomfortable or even risky. Thomas began a simple stretching routine, just 10 to 15 minutes each evening. He started with gentle hamstring stretches while seated, a few calf stretches leaning against the wall, and hip openers done while lying on the floor. No pain, no pushing, just steady, calm breathing and soft release. He also added light stretches in the morning, loosening up his back and shoulders before breakfast, gently rolling his ankles before getting out of bed. At first, it felt unnecessary, but within days, his body responded. Movements became smoother. His stride lengthened naturally, and the tight band feeling that once lived in his hips and thighs began to fade. More than anything, stretching helped Thomas feel connected to his body again, like he wasn't fighting against it anymore, but finally working with it. He realized that ignoring flexibility had slowly shrunk his world. But now, every stretch expanded it again, giving him space, freedom, and ease. And as his body opened up, he saw another dangerous habit that had crept in quietly over the years, one that felt helpful but was actually working against him. Thomas was doing better. He moved with more control, stretched daily, and stood taller than he had in years. But there was one habit he hadn't fully questioned, one that seemed harmless, even smart. Always relying on support to move around. He used the wall to steady himself when turning corners. He kept a hand on the back of chairs when standing up, and when walking outside, he instinctively leaned slightly on his cane, even when he didn't truly need to. These supports felt safe. They gave him reassurance. But what Thomas didn't realize was that depending too much on support without rebuilding strength was slowly stealing his independence. His therapist explained it clearly. Support tools like canes and handrails are valuable, especially after injury or surgery. But when we over-rely on them without actively training the muscles they replace, the body gets weaker. The stabilizing muscles in the hips, ankles, and core stop firing. Balance fades. Confidence shrinks. Thomas decided to experiment. In safe, controlled spaces, like his living room, he practiced standing up from his chair without using his hands. He walked short distances without touching walls or leaning on furniture, focusing on posture and control. He still used his cane outside, but he no longer leaned on it out of habit. He used it as a backup, not as a crutch. It was challenging at first, but over time, those small moments of independence became powerful victories. He regained trust in his legs. He moved through his home more freely, and emotionally, he felt stronger, no longer afraid that one small slip would undo his progress. Support is important, but Thomas learned that true strength comes from rebuilding the body, not replacing its work. And with that lesson, he discovered one last hidden habit that had been robbing his recovery silently, not during the day, but at night. Thomas had rebuilt so much. He was moving better, standing stronger, and carrying himself with the pride of someone who had reclaimed control of his body. But even with all that progress, there were still days when his legs felt heavy. His joints ached more than usual, and his energy wasn't always there in the mornings. At first, he thought he was overdoing it, but after talking to his doctor, he discovered something most people completely overlook. Poor sleep and recovery habits were sabotaging all his daytime progress. Healing doesn't just happen while we stretch or strengthen. It happens while we rest. And after 60, the body's recovery process becomes slower and more delicate, meaning that rest is not optional, it's essential. Without deep, consistent sleep, muscles don't fully rebuild. Inflammation doesn't get flushed out. Hormones that support bone density and joint repair don't function properly. Thomas realized he had been treating sleep like an afterthought, falling asleep with the TV on, staying up too late, tossing and turning with worries. So he made small but powerful changes. He created a calming bedtime routine, dim lights, no screens after 9 p.m., and gentle stretching before lying down. He adjusted his room to be cooler and darker. He went to bed and woke up at the same time each day, even on weekends. Within a week, he noticed a difference. He woke up feeling lighter. His legs didn't ache as much. He felt more refreshed, more present, more himself. Sleep became his secret weapon, a quiet time where his body did the deep rebuilding work he couldn't do while awake. Thomas finally understood. Mobility isn't just about how you move, it's about how you recover, how you give your body the space, stillness, and respect it needs to grow stronger. And with that final piece in place, Thomas stood taller, not just in posture, but in pride. He had uncovered the silent habits that once stole his strength, and now he was ready to help others do the same. If you're still here with me, it tells me something important about you. It tells me that you care not just about surviving, but about living well. It tells me that you want to stay strong, mobile, independent, not only for yourself, but for the people you love. Today, you walked alongside Thomas, a man who didn't lose his mobility overnight. He lost it slowly, quietly, through small habits that seemed harmless until they weren't. And you saw how he took it back, not with perfect routines or fancy equipment, but with simple awareness, consistent action, and a deep belief that it was still possible. Because it is. You've now seen the 7 silent habits that slowly destroy mobility. Sitting too long without movement, skipping strength training, ignoring balance, letting posture decline, neglecting stretching, overusing support without rebuilding strength, and forgetting that recovery is just as vital as effort. These habits don't just weaken the body, they shrink your world. They make stairs scarier, sidewalks riskier, and everyday life feel harder than it should. But here's the truth. Every single one of these habits can be reversed. Every small change you make, standing more often, adding a stretch, walking a little farther, becomes a message to your body. I'm not done yet. Imagine yourself 6 months from now, walking with confidence, getting out of chairs easily, reaching, climbing, bending without hesitation, feeling proud of the body that moves with strength and ease. That's not a fantasy. That's your future, if you choose to act today. If this message touched you, if even one habit made you pause and reflect, I invite you to stay on this journey with us. Subscribe to this channel for more real, honest advice on how to stay strong after 60. Like this video if it gave you a spark of motivation. And leave a comment. Share your story, your struggle, your next step. You never know who might be inspired by your courage. The best years of your life are not behind you. They're still ahead, full of freedom, strength, and the pride that comes from knowing you took your mobility into your own hands and walked boldly forward.